Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Frame.io Live. My name is Shawn, and I'm a content producer for Frame.io. We're so excited to have you join us. So again, welcome to Frame.io Live. We've got some exciting stuff for you today. We're going to go over Resolve with our in-house colorist, Ray Ouladi, who's going to go over a really in-depth demo of this wonderful color suite that we want to showcase for you. We're also going to talk a little bit about the integration as well. So we're going to show you a little bit about how to bring your assets into Resolve, and then also how to obviously work within the application and then send those out for review so that you can work with your editorial team. Now, if you've joined us for Frame.io Live before, I hope that you're a returning guest, but I do want to go into the audience here because we've got folks that are already telling us where they're from. So I want to kind of go down the list here. We got Minneapolis. We've got Sweden. Hello, Sweden. We got Las Vegas. That's actually my hometown. So what up, Las Vegas? We got California, which I'm broadcasting live from Hollywood, California directly. So for my California folks, hello, hello. Got a little bit of Guatemala in there. And yes, Bear Dynamic headphones are awesome. So I'm a huge fan of these. So yeah, they're great for recording and streaming. Anyway, the shameless plug, but I love their headphones. We got Idaho. We've got Italy. I was just out there last week. It's beautiful. Munich, I was there as well. Beautiful country. Got some New York in there and Montreal. This is amazing. I love this. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. We've got so much to kind of talk about and go over. And I do want to get Ray out here, but keep those, comments coming in. I see that's a great place to go because you're going to be able to ask questions as we go along in our session. So we've got some folks in the sidelines that'll be able to answer those for you. I'll be able to answer some, but we'll save a little time at the end and make that nice and open for everyone to ask your questions. So while you're putting in where you're from, also let us know what more you want to learn about. If you're just joining us, this is our third live color event that we've had. And our last two sessions really covered the basics of working within the Premiere Pro Lumetri color panel. And then our other session was with Brandon Heaslip from Colorfront. And they were able to actually show us, Ray was able to show us how to work within the Lumetri color panel, how to add different layers inside of that panel. And then in Colorfront, Brandon gave us a really in-depth look at that powerful application. But now we're happy to show you how to approach color and apply that for your next project right here in DaVinci Resolve. So if you missed those sessions, I'll throw the link in the chat, and those are also available on our YouTube page under Frame.io Live playlist, and you'll be able to track down those other color sessions if you want to go back, because we did talk a lot about color harmonies, color theory. There's a lot of really great information. But again, today's session, we're really going to focus on getting into the DaVinci Resolve application and talk a little bit about workflows and how to add those secondary colors and beyond as we go along. So, of course, I can't do this without the help of Ray Ouladi, who is our Prod Squad colorist. He's going to be able to guide us through the Frame.io workflow within Resolve. Now, again, if you are a returning user, you may know that we do actually stream live to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the above. And with every session, I do like to cover a little bit about what Frame.io is. So let me go ahead and let me share my screen here. And boop, there we go. All right, stand by. All right, awesome. So a couple quick things about how Frame.io works. So like I said, Frame.io is oh my goodness, what is Frame.io? Frame.io is a place where you can put all of your creative assets and work and collaborate with your creative teams. Now, it's really great to have all your assets in one place. And this isn't limited to video. You could put up your photos, you could put up documents, you could even put up your multi-page PDFs. We've got a new comparison viewer out, which is new in Frame.io. I'm not going to go into that, but this is a great place where you can have all your assets in one place and then work with your creative teams. And the greatest part is they're able to leave comments and annotations to really kind of foolproof that collaboration and feedback process as you're going along on your creative projects. Now, we've got integrations, with our various NLEs, but we also have an iOS app that's available on iPhone and iPad. We've got a robust web app And also for enterprise users, you're able to blast this over to an Apple TV application. But again, we've got integrations with NLEs. Of course, we've got Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects. And then we go over to Final Cut Pro 10. We have some support inside of Avid. But today we're going to talk about the integration with DaVinci Resolve. And that opens up so many doors for us. So I do want to take this time and bring out Ray because we're going to talk a little bit about some fun stuff. So Ray, I'm going to get you out here. Fantastic. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We have a jam-packed session planned with a lot of stuff. And I already see people are requesting some HDRs and things like that. I mean, obviously for the purpose of this, because we are streaming in Rec 709 SDR, that's the most compatible. So we're going to stick to that, but we can obviously talk about it at the end of the Q&A. The grading process is not different. It's just, a different standard. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to have you here once again, Ray. Now, I know we want to go right into it, the demo, but I want to give the audience a little flavor into what we're actually going to be coloring. So last week in Amsterdam, the trade show IBC took place, and that's a really great place for us to showcase new updates for Adobe and Frame.io. Now, in order to create a real environment to showcase our platform, our prod squad and brand team actually created a 30-second spec commercial on a brand that was totally fabricated for this particular event that we can use, for these events and more. But we actually created a real fake commercial for a brand that was totally made up. And we went through the full gambit of what an actual advertising or marketing agency would do to put a campaign like this together. So I do want to take a moment and show you that final product. And then Ray's going to actually go into Resolve and show you how it's done. So let me go ahead and pull up that video. All right, let's give it a play. So that is drip. Now, I wish it was actually a real product because the drinks actually look delicious in there. So I'd love to have one myself. But amazing work from our prod squad and brand team. That took a lot of time and effort to make it look just right. And you all accomplished that. But Ray, I want to ask you, though, can you tell us a little bit about the shoot? I know you were on the shoot itself. I just have a couple questions. How did the shoot go? How did you approach color while you were out shooting that content? And just kind of give us an overall look at the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so Prod Squad is like a production company within Frame.io. And so Alyssa Rooney, our DP, did a wonderful job on this, as with all the other pieces. So essentially just the way it worked is like we went through this whole pre-production phase of meeting, and the beauty of like post-team being connected with the production team at the beginning. And again, this is being more promoted over the past few years with Frame.io and sort of this remote collaboration that connects us more to the production. What it allows us to do is actually get into that fine tuning the design and the look of the film and the project from the early stages. So being on set, it was amazing. It was a 2-day shoot. And it was long days, super cool location, and it was just amazing how much work was put into this piece. And again, it's to emphasize that if you want your projects to look good, again, color grading is an extension of your cinematography. So it's not it's not a fix it in post process, although there's a lot of fixing we can do. But it's like I see a lot of tutorials out there, especially people shoot something completely flat, no color gels, nothing, and they have this other movie look in mind. Although you can sit down and paint that frame, but most important job of the colorist is to be able to carry a look through and keep the project consistent. If you cannot ensure the consistency of the project and you can't carry that through, then you have technically failed as a colorist. So I just want to emphasize that because we go through rigorous process of designing these looks and have LUTs that we design, these lookup tables, and it gets used at the production stage as well. So they put it on the monitors, they're viewing it with that look. So that creative intent gets carried throughout the entire process all the way through finishing.
Well, thank you so much for that insight. Now, I understand your demo is going to go over all of this footage, so I don't want to take up any more time. Let's jump right into it. I do want to see your screen up here so I can actually switch to you. So we just need to share that real quickly.
There we go. And just going to share that.
Boom. There we go. All right. We are off to the races. Well, Ray, take it away.
Perfect. So I'm just going to go quickly over the Frame.io integration and how you access that. So when you first start a brand new project, let's just say Untitled, you're going to have to go to DaVinci. If you haven't set it up, you go to DaVinci Resolve Preferences, Internet Accounts. All the way at the bottom, you see Frame.io. And just like in the other ones, you click Sign In. You log in with your Frame.io account or your Creative Cloud account, if you have that, which gives you access to the Frame.io. And then once you log into it, it will authenticate and connect your Resolve to your Frame.io account. And you also have a cache location. So this is where, when you're downloading assets directly from Frame.io, this is where it gets downloaded locally. And you just want to set that to a hard drive that has enough space and fast enough to handle your project. That's all there is to it. Once you do that, it gives you a few options and enables a couple of things. One thing that happened in the media page, you will see Frame.io being added here on your media storage place, as you know, pretty much as a hard drive. And if I click that, well, I have a lot of projects, so it's going to take a little second for it to load. But I'm going to go into my drip demo. This project is called Drip, and you can see that I can access all my folders there. And the beauty of it is that, let's say I go into this folder and I see my 15-second and 30-second ads. And these are, again, on Frame.io at this point. If I drag and drop it into my timeline, what happens is that it will automatically download a lower quality ProRes, a lower quality proxy of that file. And I'm able to quickly work with that. So it will play back at a lower resolution. And as I'm working with these files, the higher quality is automatically being downloaded in the background, and the quality will improve, and it will automatically replace that. And you will see that, now it's updated to ProRes 422 HQ, 4K. So, you're able to start your editorial process much, much sooner. The other thing is, I want to create a quick little timeline.
Hey, Ray, we're just getting a couple notes that we're maybe not seeing the full screen. Are you able to share the entire screen?
Let's see. I'm so sorry about that. Let me check that. Window. Entire screen.
Yeah, it's getting a couple notes. We want to make sure we see everything.
Now, are we seeing everything?
Let me jump in. All right, looks like we're seeing the application. So maybe just back up just a little bit to see where that database is, Ray. Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry about that. So I'll just start from scratch real quick. So to access the DaVinci Resolve integration, you're going to go into DaVinci Resolve menu, preferences, all the way down to internet accounts. Scroll down and you will see Frame.io. Here you will have a sign-in button. You press it, log in with your Frame.io credentials or your Creative Cloud account, which gives you access to Frame.io. And that will authenticate your Resolve and attach it to your Frame.io account. The second thing is, there's a cache location. So this is when you're dragging and dropping media directly from your Frame.io account, this is where it's going to be cached to or downloaded to locally. So you want to set that to a place where it has enough space and it's fast enough for your needs. So that's pretty much all it is to it. Once you save it, your Resolve is now connected to your Frame.io account. And you will be able to see immediately that on the media storage section, you have Frame.io now. And I have a lot of projects, so it can take a second. And I'm able to quickly go over, this project is called Drip. I'm going to go into my Drip project, Ray demo, color demo. And you're able to just navigate through your folders as if it's a hard drive. And let's say I want to bring in an asset directly from Frame.io into my project. And these are QuickTime files. Again, these are 4K, 422 HQ ProRes files. So if I drag and drop it into my timeline, depending on your internet connection, this will download, Frame.io's integration will automatically download a lower proxy file. And so you're able to actually play that back super quick and be able to work with it editorially, as soon as you have the file there, because it's going to be a smaller resolution file. And then as you're working with it, it will automatically download the high resolution file in the background and replace it for you. So you will notice that your quality of the file improves. And if you check out the specs, it does say ProRes 422HQ now that it's cached and you have the full resolution to work with. So if I create a little timeline with this, the other thing that this allows us to do is it adds a Frame.io layer as an output destination on your deliver page. So if you go to the deliver page, you will see now Frame.io has been added. And over here, again, you can render directly back to Frame.io. So, and if I hit browse, well, interesting. For some reason, it's not showing there. That has never happened, obviously. Let me just quit and relaunch real quick. Apologize for that. Yeah, so this should now be fixed. I think it was a little probably internet connection issue. So I'm going to go back and real quick and re-import my clip. Again, drag and drop. And so the second part of the integration is on the deliver page. And over here, you notice that we have a Frame.io added as an option. And we click browse, we have Frame.io there. And I'm able to, like, just like the way I imported, select the folder where I want to publish this to. I'm going to navigate quickly to my demo project folder. And in the review, select that and change that to, you have two options. You have MP4 and QuickTime. You have all flavors of QuickTime. If you can do ProRes all the way up to 444XQ, different resolutions, and MP4. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to publish this very quickly. Let's say version 1, add it, render. It will render that very quickly, and it will automatically upload it in the background. And what happens is you see that file is already uploaded to my Frame.io. V1 is right there. Now, the second part of it, the other part of this is that if I add any comments here, these comments will show up on my timeline. So let's say I draw a little annotation, or I just say, make this talk brighter. Put that there because it was published from my Resolve to Frame.io. That comment is now on my timeline as a marker. And the StreamYard is covering my screen. And you can see that comment is now populated there. And if I double click it, it basically opens up this little chat window where I can reply to it. Coming up in the next version. And again, same comment is synced up. And Shawn also made a note there. And you can see I can reply to both of these comments here. So I don't have to leave my application to interact and go over these markers. And so here, Shawn actually drew a little note and put a little marker there and some annotation. It shows up on my timeline with all the annotations. And I can just double click. That can be adjust the brightness here. And let's say I fixed these issues and I go back to my render and I just do a rev version 2. and I hit render, right? So I made a new version. By the way, none of those annotations ever get rendered in. It's just for you to know what that is. And that's already uploaded. And I go back here. Now I have the version 2. So what I'm going to do now is do version stacking. This is a beautiful way to be able to view a content side by side. I drag and drop this over my version 1, and you see a little V2, almost like an icon appeared next to it. And so if Shawn wants to view this, if anybody wants to view this, they'll see this, both of these versions are available to them. They can also do a comparison view. So now they can actually compare them side by side. And by clicking on one or the other, then the V2 is on the left, it's appear per version, which is very handy. And the other thing, once this version stack that enables us to do, let's say I make more adjustment and I want to publish a version 3. And this time on the version 3, I can go hit browse, and under the review, I'm just going to refresh that under the same folder. You will notice that my version stack is now appearing as a destination. So if I select that and hit it as in my render queue, what it will do is it will actually render, upload, and version stack it automatically. So I don't have to do that anymore. And if I go back to my Frame.io and refresh this, and you will see that now it says V3. All 3 versions are stacked, and you can compare any version, V3 with V2 or V3 with V1, make your comments and suggestions. And the beauty of it is that when you make these new versions, it will also like clean up your markers and your timelines as you're on your timeline, so you don't get cluttered with all these markers being in your timeline. And that is pretty much the basis of the Frame.io integration in Resolve. Now, if you don't want to do we also have a transfer app for instances where you want to download. For example, here I have 2.5 terabytes of 8K raw footage. So if I want to I get an XML from my editorial and I want to just link those to raw media, but I don't want to download 2.5 terabytes for this 30-second piece. So what I can do is I can quickly, there's a button down here in the transfer app, it says set download list. By clicking that button, you can actually browse to your XML or EDL file and put that in there. And you can see that it's been selected, because when I hover over it, the name of the XML shows up. And that will allow, what it will do is it will basically collect, and I tell it this is where all my media is at. And when I hit download, it will basically use that list and only download those assets that are in that XML file. And I can tell it to download the original files or the proxies, and this will ask me where I want to download this stuff to, and you hit download and you have all your raw assets there. So it's really designed for file management and transfer. It's a very robust way of basically getting you to your files. And that's pretty much it on the Frame.io's side of integration with Resolve. And you can see all the annotations, everything showing up. Do we have any questions about any of this? But I can't, I'm sharing my screen. I can't see the chat.
Yeah, no questions just yet. But it's a great time to prompt folks for questions, but I think everyone was kind of checking out the integration. But yeah, I think we're good right now, but we'll queue up some more as we go along. But great time to start queuing up those questions, because we'll have Q&A in just a few minutes.
Okay, so that's basically what we use to go through our review and approval. I'm going to jump into our demo project, and this one has, has my final timeline with all the 8K raw, as well as another timeline where we can work in. First things first, the way I approach my color grading, again, I try to keep things as simple as possible. My bin structures are always it's very easy to navigate, very easy to see. Everything's tidy and clean. I'm a big believer, even my node structure, I start with 2 or 3 nodes, and then in a certain way, and which I'm going to show in a second, because that way you can always manage your color. If you're using this elaborate node tree and you have a feature film that has 2,000 cuts and you have all sorts of different corrections, it's going to be making it very difficult for you to be able to manage your color and make adjustments if you're coming back and visiting. So same thing here. Timeline, that's where my timelines are going to be at. Sound mix, reference. This is a very important reference clip. If you don't already know, if you want to import a reference clip and be able to attach it to your timeline, all you have to do is when you navigate to your reference media clip, right-click to it and just say, add as offline reference clip. And then once it's there, you will see this little checker pattern icon there. On your timeline, you have a timeline here. You can actually right-click and attach that to your timeline. And you notice that it's showing up here, the name, and it's already selected for me because I've already done it in the past. And beauty of that is that once that's there, I can actually wipe between my raw assets, like this is my timeline, and that Daly's editorial reference on the right. There's different wipe options, so I can quickly do my conform check, clip to clip, all that stuff. And you can also use it as a reference in your color page as well. So make sure you that's a very good way of quickly having a reference added. And let's jump right into my color portion of this. And on this, I have a 15-second version and a 30-second version. Color management is a whole concept, is a whole wonderful concept that we have to be familiar with, but it's going to take, we need a whole session dedicated to it. In this project, I'm doing the color management using LUTs. So we're not doing a color like Resolve color managed sort of a project. But this LUT was designed from the get-go, as I said, and it's taking my red raw log G310 red white gamut to Rec 709 display. And the way I have my project set is my color management. I've told it my timeline is red white gamut log G310 and my output is that. It's not really managing it. I'm just like making sure everything's tagged correctly, and I can sort of, it's visually easier for me to make sure everything's there. And I work in a scene referred type of in a scene referred space, which means all of my color corrections happens in log space in my my shots, and then my the LUT gets applied. This StreamYard, I can move that around, perfect. And then my LUT gets applied on the last step. So the order of operation is log comes in, all my grading happens on the log, and the node sits, the LUT sits at the end of the chain. So in this particular timeline, everything is red raw except for my last clip, which is a Rec 709, just a logo, right? So what I've done is I have actually grouped my shots. So I just select all of my clips here and added them to a group. You can just select them and right click, make a new group or add it to a new group. And the beauty of adding a group is that it will basically give you a couple more options up here on your sort of node levels. It gives you a pre-clip. So if you want to do, which is a global adjustment that gets applied throughout that entire group, then you have the same clip adjustments, which is clip by clip grading. And then you also get a post clip, which is again another it's like almost like timeline node, which but it's only affecting that group. And that's what I'm using to apply my LUT. So I'm applying my LUT there, and it's only affecting that group, and no LUTs get applied to my last clip. Quick way to be able to group different sections based on formats. If you have multiple cameras or if you have different scenes, you want to do quick adjustments to different sections. This is a great way to get that going. So once I have everything set, I'm going to go into a timeline where I can start from scratch. So everything like I talked about very quickly, have my groups. Let's assign and to this group. And this one already has my LUT in there and a little contrast, but I'm going to turn it off. And this is pretty much my, looks like I had left these two guys out. And so everything has the LUT to it. And again, these were shot beautifully, cinematographed by Alyssa Rooney, and we were involved with the look management and the look design of it from the get-go. But again, once the project is edited, we want to go, the first things first, we want to balance things out. So I mentioned I have a sort of node tree that I like to work with. And so it's very simple. I'm going to apply it right now. It's basically, I have one serial at the beginning, one, that's where I do all my color correction there, my matching adjustments, contrast base correction. And then after that, I do a series of parallels, and I can make these more, add more layers to it. I like parallel nodes because your input to all of those nodes, as you can see by these lines, is that corrected image. And you can do incremental adjustments to different parts of your image, highlights, midtone, shadows, different parts, or throw little windows. And they get collectively, the sum of that gets added, and the cumulative result will be passed through the next node and the finishing. It's just much easier to manage, and it's very clean as I do the process. So I get asked this question. So usually what I do is I apply that node tree throughout my timeline. So I select them all and I apply that. That way I can just jump from one to the other, and already the node tree is there. First things first, I want to do my correction, right? So color correction or my base adjustment, essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring everything into a common space and make the contrast and the saturation similar, so we feel like nothing's jumping out. First 3 clips, they're relatively, they're in the same scene. I'm going to say these 4 sections, right? These 4 clips going from here to there to there to there, we call one scene, and then we go outside. This one jumps out, different look, different sort of a place and different lighting as compared to these guys. And even these ones, if I look at my vector scope, because I want to look at some of the saturations, I can see that the saturation levels of that orange mid color is pretty much the same in here. And this one is a little bit different, obviously different camera angle. So I may want to quickly make a small little adjustment. And I do my adjustments using the offset tools. And I can just, quickly add a little bit of a saturation to it so that I can feels the same, and just a tiny bit of, mine is red, and looking at the vector scope, we are in a decent shape. This one, however, different place, different contrast. So I do want to just make some quick adjustments to it. I will add contrast to this, and I will also change my pivot point. Pivot point is where that contrast starts hitting. So that if you imagine an S curve, if you have a curve, it's basically adjusting where this curve is, sort of these different low and high points are being created. And so basically I just make a quick little contrast adjustment, and I will constantly pay attention to my waveform and my parade, because I want to make sure my black levels and everything is remaining consistent relative to the shot, right? So obviously we make those adjustments as we go. We're sitting in the relative space, and now this contrast is giving me a better feeling. It doesn't jump out. I'm going to add some more saturation to it, and all of a sudden it feels like now we are more or less balanced. Like I said, less is more. You don't want to do too much in this stage. You just want to bring everything into a decent space and be able to work with it. And this scene, again, this is my process. I go through the whole timeline with this sort of a mindset and correction. Again, this is a new scene, and right off the bat, I want to make this sky brighter. So I'm going to use log tools. I want to push my highlights up, and you can see nothing is happening as I'm pushing it, because you have a range adjustment where you can actually, log tools give you these two range adjustments if you're familiar with it, which means you can set where your shadows and midtones, where your shadows and highlights are going to be. And once you define that region, the region in between them becomes your midtone. So I can tell it, my highlights are much lower. If you look at the scopes here, my highs are pretty much sitting at around mid range. So, I'm going to tell it, hey, come down and grab my midtones as my highlight adjustment. And I'm able to like push that up, as you can see, and sort of make that brightness adjustment. I'm going a little extreme so we can actually see, because that's what it is. And when we make some of these adjustments, we also have to be mindful of the saturation levels and things like that. But first, base contrast. If you look at these, base contrast is adjusted, and we're sitting in a relative space. And in the interest of time, because I want to leave you guys with questions and things, I'm going to jump into my final color graded timeline and sort of dissect what I have done throughout this piece, right? So second thing I do in the same node tree, I try to isolate my image with qualifier tool and mostly using luminance ranges, right? So I wanted to like pop the highlights and make the subject, basically sort of make the highlights and give it some more contrast so the athlete pops a little bit more. And what I did here, again, very incremental, I pulled a key that is anything that's like white and gray is selected. Anything that is falling off to black is not selected, obviously. And so I'm just making some quick adjustments there where I'm basically pushing those high to mid ranges a little bit up. And I'm going to come out of the highlight mode. And you'll notice real quickly, automatically that just gives me a better sense of where she's at and the environment. And same thing goes again. And then the next one, I do the opposite. So I basically now select my mid to shadow region. So I've isolated my two regions of this picture, which is pretty dominant in this scene. And I'm able to quickly basically add a little bit of density here. So which means if I lower these shadows here, let's just use curves, the way it doesn't give you that harsh sort of a contrast that's going to crush everything, because you're selecting it in such a soft manner. And that way you're able to get much more filmic look in your shadows and create that contrast in a much more softer gradient manner than using other tools. So this is the way I work on most of my pieces. I isolate using qualifier. And the beauty of using qualifier is that if you get good at it, you can obviously limit your qualifier. Let's say I've qualified this entire region, but I only want to affect her. I can quickly go add a window to it and limit that selection within that region, for example. So, and the beauty of it is that you're able to achieve a much more level of separation throughout your image much quicker using your qualifier tools. And the way I've done it, super simple. For selecting the shadows, obviously, I left my shadows to grab everything from 0 point. And I brought my highlights point down until, if I reset that grade, you will see I brought my highlight, but let me just reset that grade so you see exactly how I did it. I brought my highlight point down, 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 until I get to a point where, I see a separation. And then I start sort of softening that out. So you can quickly see the highlight on her face is black, which means that highlight is not being affected by anything I do. Everything else is. So key takeaway, that's how I like to work. I do a lot of these keying, and then, also play with different I keep adding to this as parallel. And you can, if it gets too complex, you can obviously start labeling your nodes. Same thing in this scene. So we wanted to pop this a little bit more because the subject, which is basically the athlete and the coach, these guys were getting lost a little bit. And we wanted to make sure that there's enough contrast, enough pop there to be able to sort of lead the eyes to the right part of the frame that affects the story. So here I actually did a little window, nothing too crazy. And I also added an outside node as well. So this node is only selecting that region. The outside node is you just right click, very simple, add an outside node. And you have buttons on the big panel as well. And what it does, it basically selects all the area except that region. So with this outside node, I'm bringing the environment down. And with the inside node, I'm bringing this, adding more contrast, bringing it up. So collectively, if I don't have those two in there, that was the image. And then with that, I added enough contrast, but without losing, with basically drawing contrast. I make sure if you're using any shapes, you don't always have to use stick to the regular shapes that are there. You can obviously do a little shape like that, and then you can click convert to Bezier, and then you can easily like manipulate that shape so that it's not obvious, you know, round or square, and you can shape it however you want, track it, and you know, all that stuff. So that's another great way to manipulate your grades and essentially creating that contrast there. Moving on to the next one, again, same concept, because this was a standalone shot. I didn't have anything else like it. There was no correction to be done per se. There's no matching to be done. So I used my first node to basically qualify my sky region a little bit, and you know, add a little bit of a saturation to it. You know, selective saturation, and basically blue saturation is what's going up in that corner being affected. And again, in layers, process of layers and increments. Like, don't get crazy with one node because you can't undo it. This way, even if you turn off, you have to turn off 2 or 3 nodes to actually affect my image, you know, to be able to see what's happening, right? So I'm just those nodes that are affecting my shadows and the highlight region in this right corner. And that is my process in being able to like quickly go through a large chunk of even in features or anything like that. Last feature I worked on has over 2,000 cuts. And so by grouping, by keying, I'm able to like avoid having to throw too many power windows and able to like achieve my grade quicker. The one clip that had a lot of power windows was this one. I'm gonna quickly say, because we were gonna do a few things with this one. Pressing. So I throw a little power window there, and there's like, you know, keying and happening. I'm affecting the saturation of the grass there. So, you know, just that. It's a static shot. Again, just using my curves, hue versus luma, hue versus saturation, hue versus hue. You know, sometimes you see the grass, because of all the sodium vapor lights, was looking a little dull and a little yellow. So I use hue versus hue to change the hue of the grass to something nicer that we wanted to be more vibrant. Same thing here. Again, I threw a little window there affecting that wall, basically warming that wall up a little bit. It was feeling a little dull and cool. This is as far as the painterly sort of section as it's going to get. And again, back there, I threw a little window, but you know, it's rough, but I'm only affecting, you know, some saturation levels of those lights, and you can kind of see what's happening. I wanted to like up that region a little bit. And same thing with this wall. I wanted to knock this wall down, so I put a little window there, selected it, and what that's doing is just bringing it down slightly, not too much. And again, like, it's a process of layers, process of doing one little thing at a time, and being able to like do things in a manner that you can replicate this throughout your entire grade. And I'm going to leave it at that and open up to Q&A.
Beautiful, Ray. Thank you so much. I know that was a lot that you shared with us. It's really amazing. You don't really think about it, but how much color brings in so much to the story. And there's so many options that you can do to actually get it to the final point of broadcast or stream or wherever it's going. So it's really interesting to see how that kind of works and how that happens. So thank you again for sharing all of that with us. There are a couple of questions that popped in, but I do want to throw it out to the group. If anyone does have any questions, this is your opportunity to throw it in the queue, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first one is from Ryan. I'm going to bring this up here. Ryan's question was, if I'm working on a shared project with another editor, Resolve Cloud, and I add new media into Resolve from my hard drive, how will my partner see those additional assets come through in Frame.io?
So if you're working and just so that we understand this, if you're bringing assets that are already on Frame.io and you're bringing those from Frame.io into your account, obviously as long as your shared group has access to both of those accounts, your Resolve Cloud, as well as Resolve Cloud is mainly for your project management, and then if they have access to the Frame.io account, those assets should basically populate or re-download on their own. And the other question is, if you're adding it from your hard drive, obviously if the media is completely missing, it's not the other party does not have access to it, it's strictly from your hard drive, then it's just not there for them to use. You do have to share that with them at some point, either through Frame.io or any other means.
Yeah, so basically you would need to have those assets inside of Frame.io in order for the other editor to access those in. And the tool earlier that Ray was showcasing, Frame.io Transfer, that's actually a really great application to be able to upload and download those files. It works both on Mac and PC, and it also preserves that folder structure. So if you are sharing that with an editor and you're using, let's say, Red footage, we know how important that folder structure is to maintain all of your media. That tool would be the best to kind of allow those files to go up and down and share it with another remote editor. But Ryan, if you have any follow-ups to that question, throw those in the chat. But we're going to go to our next question here. And this is from Christopher, I think is how you would say it correctly. What about the color accuracy in Frame.io for critical color review?
It is color accurate, and I tell you that even like I've been at different events from some of the top color scientists who use Frame.io. Like, we're amazed by like how well it works. It is color accurate. However, you do have to be mindful that you are at the mercy of your device that you're using. So we are color accurate in terms of what goes up there gets played back correctly with everything the way it should. And all the metadata, everything gets read correctly and displays it correctly if you use the app. But if you are on a device that's not calibrated or it's not, something's off, then you're at the mercy of your device. But Frame.io's accuracy is 100% is there.
Perfect.
And we do all of our color approvals on Frame.io. Basically, I publish everything the way I showed you earlier, my timeline, and it goes to Frame.io. Everyone reviews it on their Frame.io either app, using an iPad Pro or a Mac computer, and we get all the approvals through that sort of level.
Beautiful. Thank you again for the question. Jumping over to the next one. We got a couple in here. That's awesome. So I've been working on some really cool DCTLs. Have you had any experience using them? I use some for density, hue shift, saturation, desaturation. Fitzgerald seems to be a huge fan. What are your thoughts, Ray?
Well, there are multiple ways of achieving every look. And again, this is my method of showing things. And you're more like, so even like if I backtrack a little bit, even for color management, right? We can use LUTs, we can use ACES, we can use DaVinci's color managed timelines using DaVinci Wide Gamut. There's different ways of achieving the same look, right? So as long as you are using whatever tool that you're comfortable with to achieve what you want to do. It's wonderful. Just use that. And that's pretty much a preference type of thing, right? It works, and the DCTLs work wonderfully. I use them on some projects myself as well. But again, it's matter of preference, right? So we have all the tools available to us. A few years back, some of these tools were not the way they are right now, but colorists were still achieving wonderful looks. So as long as you know what you're working with and you're comfortable with your tools and you know what they're doing, because it's more important to know what it's doing and how it's affecting your image. And that's pretty much it. You just need to understand it and be cool with it, be comfortable, like a paintbrush that a painter picks. And that's that.
Sweet. All right. I think we got time for one more. Let me take a look at the queue here. It looks like somebody said their question's not showing up. Yeah, if you want to repost that question, we got time for one more. Let me grab this last one in here in my queue, which is one more from Christopher. I think he wants some insight. So he wants to give a short note on how to guarantee the color throughout the chain. So if you're using a Mac, having it on the second stream or a second screen, having it in a Blackmagic Ultra Studio monitor, or so on and so on. How do you give a guarantee of the color throughout that chain?
Simple answer is there is no guarantee. So long as you're using multiple devices, the only way to guarantee it is to vet the devices next to each other. And again, this is a lot of times we do that in post houses where we have my grading monitor, we have the Sony X310 or X300, depending on which one I have, and then we may have a client viewing monitor, which is an LG OLED. And then we have, streaming. And what we do is we actually vet those for those color critical situations to make sure that I, as a colorist, when I'm working and someone's reviewing it on an iPad or on this, on that, I'm comfortable with them giving me color notes. So there is no, again, yeah, you said you knew it, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You're at the mercy of the devices.
I love it. All right. So PDKRES, if you want to bring your question in, we'd happy to answer it for you. But other than that, if there's any other last questions, I'm happy to answer those, but we are getting close on time. But I do want to give the benefit of the doubt that if there was a question popped in, I don't want to miss that. But I do not see it in there. But I do want to take a time and thank you again, Ray. I know this is the third session. It's been a lot that you've been sharing with our audience. So I hope that our audience did get some incredible knowledge of how to work with color inside of DaVinci Resolve. And of course, check back on our other sessions because he actually does go over color theory, color harmonies, not just within Premiere Pro, but also inside of Colorfront with Brandon. So please check out those other sessions. But moving forward, to provide you, my apologies. If you are new to Frame.io or have never used our platform, you can use this QR code below. Or even if you're looking to expand your current plan offering, scan that QR code. It'll get you over to our sales team where they can talk to you a little bit more about Frame.io or increase your plan limits if you need more storage or users or anything like that. But that QR code is great to get that information. And the next one is to provide you with the most relevant content. This is a survey, and I'd love for folks to be able to fill out the survey and leave us any comments of any future sessions you want, or even how this one went on its own. So please check out that QR code. We'd love to hear from you because we want to make more content that you want to see. And if you want to see more color content, we are going to be having some more sessions coming up. So please drop in your comments what you're looking for. I saw a few that popped up earlier, so I do want to keep those coming forward. And be sure to check back as well to the Frame.io Live Hub by visiting frame.io/live. We'll throw that in the chat as well. We have sessions posted on a regular basis. So if you do want some general knowledge on Frame.io, we could share that with you. But once again, thank you so much. I'm checking to see if that question came in.
I also want to mention something else. We do have a great blog section, Frame.io Insider. And that has amazing wealth of articles in it, especially workflow related, color. It has a broad range of articles, and I think there's definitely excellent articles in there for using ACES workflow, Resolve, Premiere Pro, and all that stuff. And I encourage you, if you can put the link in the chat, it would be amazing, because I think that has a lot of great information and it's easy to follow, especially in some color management, workflow questions, and things like that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. Thank you for that call out. I did throw that in the chat. But again, thank you, everyone. I'm going to throw this on the screen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ray. And yeah, we'll see you on the next Frame.io live session. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.